Are you ready to eliminate your credit card processing fees? Visit www.pairpayments.com and use code JAKE for a $250 Visa gift card when you join today. Welcome back to the Under Pressure podcast. Today, I'm your host, Jake Aronson, and with me is Christian Militello and Bradley Williams, and we are at Shingle Creek in Orlando, Florida for the CETA PWNA event. Brad, Christian, so nice to have you guys here.
Yeah, man, it's always fun to sit down with you, and we finally get to do it in person. Usually, when you and I are recording, we're always like on computers on other parts of the country, but today we're joined with Christian. And Christian, I've had the pleasure of sitting down and talking with you before. Incredible entrepreneurial story. Love what you're doing. I think you're doing some big things in the industry. You're a PWNA board member.
Yes, correct.
Right? Yeah. So help put on this event. You take
a
little bit of credit.
I try and stay humble, right? I help, it's ideas and a board meeting and events, and there's committees, and there is a specific committee that's geared towards the convention. But we all help and chip in at some point along the way, and what we're good at, and offering, opinions on and things like that.
So for anybody that doesn't know, and I'm going to put myself in that camp, PWNA kind of partnering up with CETA on this event. Can you kind of explain the differences between the organizations, and then what the purpose is of doing
Sure,
that?
yeah. I'll do my best I can. The partnership happened before I came. This is about year 3 for me on the board. Mm-hmm. From my understanding, and this part I'm pretty sure, CETA represents the retailers, right? So your Sherwin-Williams of the world, your Benjamin Moores of the world, mm-hmm. They represent those guys. Mm-hmm. We represent the contractors, right?
Okay.
So the people who actually make the things, that's who CETA represents. The people who actually buy the things, that's who we represent. Now there are some vendors that we have, not necessarily wholesalers, so retail vendors, meaning somebody who sells you the equipment from their storefront. That would be also on our side, I believe. So that's the difference there. They grouped up together a few years ago to try and kind of bring more attention and information from the wholesalers, right? So you're going to get some more information on the super ground level from them, and just kind of bring the orgs together. So
who attends an event like this? Give us an idea, who would be the kind of person that would come? So when I first started, it was people like me. I just started. It was just me and a wand and one other guy. Yeah.
I started at a very small local event, and then went to these larger events to network, to kind of rub elbows with people. So I was very small at the time, and we've since grown. I'm by no means large, in my opinion. There are companies that are much larger than me. You never know about them. You've never seen them on Facebook, and probably never talk to them. So it ranges from anywhere from, I would say, $50,000 a year to 8 figures, 10 million plus.
Now, if I were coming, I think that answers the contractor side of things. Is there a different audience that attends a CETA type event, or?
So for the CETA side, I would imagine that would be that, even including the vendors who have spots on the floor. So your power wash store, your AC lockers, anybody else who has a spot on the floor, they may want to mingle around to see what kind of new equipment, mm-hmm. new pumps, mm-hmm. Things like that may be coming out. That's who I would imagine will be coming for the vendor side.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know Christian Militello, can you tell us a little bit about your company, Militello Painting and Powerwashing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm based out of Philadelphia area, about 10-15 minutes outside the city. Yes, we are 1-1 right now against the Braves, but I'll take it. That first win was pretty big, especially away. I own and operate a Militello Painting and Powerwashing right outside the Philadelphia market. We've been doing this for about 22 years. We'll range anywhere from 12, 15 employees all the way up to 40 during peak season.
Yeah, so share a little bit. You and I talked about this a little bit.
Yes,
but you have a little bit of a non-traditional model when it comes to dealing with kind of peak season versus non-peak season. Explain what you mean when you say, sometimes I have 12 employees, sometimes I have 40.
Yeah.
That's a
big swing.
COVID kind of threw a wrench into everybody, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be materials to get for vendors, whether it be materials for end users, whether it be people. So COVID did not hurt our work per se. Like, we still had a lot of work, but we just did not have the people to produce the work. I was one of those people who thought subcontracting was a dirty word. And most end users, meaning my clients, I thought subcontractors was a dirty word, right? And I think generally speaking, people still think that. However, we were in a position where we needed to produce work. So I went out and hired a project manager, a friend of mine who managed multi businesses of children's care places. So he's used to managing multiple locations. He also painted with me previously. He came in to manage our subcontractors. So instead of a subcontractor in other models coming to me for work and here's your job jacket, go produce the job, here's the client's information. That's typically how most of it works. For us, if you're my project manager and he's the client, you and I show up for the job together. We'll walk the job. I bring all your materials, your paint, your subcontracting for us is only painting side, not the power washing side. I show up with the paint, I show up with tape, I show up with the rollers, I show up with the plastic, with the paper. You just need to put it on the walls. Sometimes, in some subcontractor models, the subcontractors to provide all that stuff, right? So they might take 60% of the job and they provide all the materials. Now, in order to make more money, what would you as a subcontractor potentially do?
Yep, upsell the paints or
buy the cheapest stuff, right?
Oh yeah, that's it.
So you're going to buy the cheapest stuff possible. This way we can still control what they're actually putting on the walls and the equipment they're using to put it on the wall with.
So it's like a franchise light model.
I guess you could sort of.
You're controlling some aspects.
Right? We're providing them. Why I thought subcontracting was dirty was because I always thought it was poor work. What it really is, in some instances, are people who just want to go to work. They don't necessarily want to find the work. They don't want to estimate the work. They don't want to deal with the clients. They don't want to answer the phones. They don't want to pick up the phones.
Well, I think
we handle all that stuff.
Yeah.
When it comes to completing a job, especially larger jobs or really anything, there's a lot of pieces in the puzzle.
Yeah.
There's actually selling the work, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, there's pricing and estimating the job.
Yeah.
There's these different pieces. There's quality control,
Yeah.
and then there's doing the work. And I agree with you. It's like not everybody wants to do all the pieces.
Yeah.
Some people, you get into larger construction. In my background's in construction. There's just estimators.
Yeah.
There's just the client-facing person.
Yeah.
There's just the person who does quality control, and then there's the people that actually do the work. And yet, we get into smaller businesses, we feel like we have to wear every single hat, and if we're not wearing every hat, like we're not good at our job. But I think people do view that. I come from the construction.
Yeah. So you're used to a subcontractor word. It wasn't a bad word for you.
And that's exactly, we do it a lot more like you. It's not like we're just like, hey, here's a house, go frame it.
Yeah.
No. The contractor's on the job interfacing the client's wishes, the plans, and making sure what they do on a day-to-day basis is bringing that to fruition. They're providing skilled labor.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think it makes a ton of sense. Even Fortune 500 home building companies are still subcontracting their plumbing, their framing, because it helps them manage the cost better than having hundreds and hundreds of employees all over the country on a payroll.
Yeah.
So,
but from the power washing perspective, we don't do that. We also have in-house painters, right?
Yeah.
So they're awesome people. It gives my people an opportunity to grow. If you were a painter with us, or you were a painter with us, there may be a ceiling you could reach, right? And that ceiling is crew lead. With this mixed model, I can move crew leaders now to project managers, and they have an opportunity to get out in the field if their personality trait fits and all that kind of stuff. So we have, and then if a client doesn't want us to use a sub, we don't need to. We can use in-house guys.
So one of the more common questions we do get these days is about adding, the ancillary services. So for you, did it start with painting? Did it start with pressure washing? And how did you commingle the two?
So it's always been painting and power washing. But what I like to say is that we used to power wash like painters. Now we're a professional power washing company. And there is a difference. And it is because of organizations and networking and things like that.
Yeah.
We used to get on ladders 40 feet in the air, pull that trigger, and blast away whatever we could, man. And just go to town. And it looked clean. It wasn't until we further educated ourselves on the proper way to do it that we do it now much differently. So about the last 10 years, we've been, quote unquote, I like to say low pressure wash, soft wash. We do have a soft wash system as far as, we use electric for the soft washing stuff. And then downstream chemicals and things like that. It's much easier to clean, safer to clean, safer for the substrate you're cleaning, safer for the employee. Obviously, everything has its ups and downs, so there are a downside to using some chemicals, right? And we're completely transparent with our clients about using that way. And some jobs are a perfect fit for us because they want that high pressure.
So for this evolution of the pressure washing within your company, you talk a little bit about the effect that events had. And as your board member of PWNA, we're here at PWNA doing a podcast. I want to speak to the people in the audience that are listening to this that maybe haven't been to any events in the industry or any PWNA events. What hand did that play in helping your evolution? How were you able to take your company from where it started to where you are now with all the networking and education you did at events?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I stretched myself to be able to come to an event in the beginning. Financially, it just was not feasible, but we forced it, and we got here, and I was kind of a fly in the wall. I was here by myself. I felt like a rookie, despite being 10 years into an industry. I had all those feelings. I started, maybe talking to a person or two, or maybe somebody started talking to me. I don't know exactly how, but we started talking, and that started the quote-unquote networking, right? It's just hanging out and talking to people. The classes came after that, and the networking just kind of like kept going, So the networking kept bringing me back, Now, back then, I went to every single class I possibly could. Now, I pick and choose certain classes, and then I'll just go and mingle with people. So it might be one or two classes, which seems crazy to pay all this money to go to an event and network. But you're not networking with people in your own market, right? I do at home. I talk to my quote-unquote competition, and they're friends. They are legitimately friends of mine in my competition. But in an event like a situation like this, you are able to network with people who are not in your market.
What would you say to people, and I think this is so common in any kind of skilled labor space where people are like, well, I don't want to give my secrets away to the competition. What would you say to somebody that kind
There
of
are no new ideas, no new secrets, no special sauce. There's nothing that's new.
What are some of the advantages that you've seen in your business from being willing to have friendly competition and networking with people in your own area?
So, jobs I can't handle, right? Jobs they can't handle. So we pass work back and forth. Employee verification, right? So if you're friendly with somebody and there's an employee that was previously on their staff, you can call and see how they were, see if they would hire them back, and vice versa. Price, I guess you could say, right? So you want to be competitive in your market. You don't want to overcharge a client, and you don't want to undercharge a client, right? Both of those lead to negative things typically. You'll undercharge. If you undercharge, typically I don't believe people do bad work because they want to. I think they're trying to save if they under a bid and estimate, right? I think also the reason people do some bad work sometimes is because they're not educated, don't know how to do good work. So it's the best work they could possibly do. But from the other perspective, it's just nice to have friends in the industry. This is what we do for a living, right?
Yeah.
So when we go home and you talk to your buddy who manages an HR firm, they're not going to know about some power washing. They're not going to want to talk about that. Your wife might not want to talk about it. Your husband might not want to talk about it, whatever. So it's nice to be able to talk through some problems other people know.
Yeah,
wins,
share war stories.
Yeah, or wins too.
And how beneficial has it been to be able to keep your finger on the pulse and understand how the industry itself is changing?
Yeah, I mean, that's huge too, right? And what I was getting at with the pricing was similar to your question with the pulse. We talk about pricing, right? We're not colluding, right? I'm not going to your house and he and I talk to each other about the price and say, hey, I can't really use this job. You can like, I'll bid $2,000 higher, you get your number. No, we're not doing that, right? We are checking ourselves to make sure the market is correct, right? So we don't want to overcharge, we don't want to undercharge, but we want to be right. Right? And the market can bear certain things and it can't bear certain things. So it's nice to be able to talk to your competition. I got to come up with a better word for that, right?
Yeah.
Your competition, whatever, about pricing too, right? So that you're not doing an injustice. And then as far as the what was the other part?
So with the finger on the pulse.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
the industry change.
stuff. For industry changes, like coming and walking to a trade show floor and seeing what's coming out with all this. You know, power washing side is pretty technologically driven, right? There's a lot of Bluetooth stuff coming across now, and different chemicals and different soaps and different pumps and different ways to, you know, clean stuff and different ways to be safe, right? So a lot of classes on safety and education as far as that's concerned.
In an event like this, so one thing you just mentioned is sharing your wins. You had mentioned that prior, and I'm sure that an event like this, being able to have people who understand where you're coming from, and you can share your wins and your losses and the obstacles and the opportunities that you faced. Does that help you evolve as a leader within your own company as well? Do you come home from these charged up or validated in any sense? So how does that affect your ability to lead your company?
So when your day-to-day is a grind, that's a great question, you know, and you're wearing 10 different hats. Coming here, my wife likes to bust my chops and say, like, oh, you get to go on vacation and this, but you guys saw what I was doing for the last... Yeah, just so you know, I've been running around.
He's been working.
I've been running around for the last 45 minutes waiting to get into this room, getting tables and rooms and projectors. And so, no, it's not always a vacation, but it is nice to step away. It does recharge your batteries with some ideas. I have some books from like 10 years ago for events that I like flip through, and I'm writing goals down in classes, and it's cool to go back and look at them. So definitely 100% recharges your batteries, right?
And Brad and I were talking last night about the need for a reset. When you're in the cog of the machine and you're building that machine, and every day it can be monotonous, I'm sure. How powerful is it to stop your day-to-day, come to an event like this, and get a different perspective on your business?
Yeah.
Do you see that?
I do, right? You can see where you came from, which keeps you seeing where you came from and remembering where you came from and talking to the people and telling those business owners, like, hey, this is possible, this is where I'm at. And then seeing where somebody else is keeps you very humble. Yeah. And seeing, because there's some big businesses out there, you know. So that little bit of humility and a remembrance of, you still got a long way to go, kid.
I think it's really recharging. I heard this guy talking about a philosophy on surrounding yourself with people. And we've all heard like the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I just said that yesterday to somebody.
And he said, that's good and all. He said, but I think that we could go a level deeper. He said, I like the rule of 33. He said, spend 33% of your time with people that are in the same thing you're doing. You're fighting together. Yeah. Right? Spend 33% of your time with people who you look up to, who by spending time with them, it brings you up. And spend 33% of your time with people that you're bringing up. And I think that like these types of events kind of allow for that.
I like that much better than the Rule of 5, right? Because I like the Rule of 5, right? You are the average of the 5 closest people to you. However, there are a lot of people that are very close to me that I do not want to give up. I've had friends for a very long time. Some super close friends who are not in an industry of me. They have different goals and aspirations in their life, and they're friends of mine, right? So if you could take that third a little bit further. And I like that idea, and just maybe 33%, and then split that last 15 between like friends and family. Right? Yeah. That kind of like, that'll keep that core group people that like have known you, and you can share your wins with personally because they've known you since you were 12, 13, 14 years old, which is pretty cool. Because I've had some friends and family that say they're proud of me. Yeah. Which is, it's nice to hear. Well, when somebody close to you that has known you for a long time is proud.
I'm sure it's amazing. It's probably so fulfilling, and it probably really, inspires you no matter where they are. If they're above you, if they're below you, sharing your wins probably inspires you to drive your business even further. Yeah. And so, to me, I'm thinking both of these is like those chains of monkeys. The monkey and the
those red ones or whatever. Yeah.
You got one hand up. You're getting pulled up by the guy who's been where you are, and you have one hand down at the same time. Yeah. And you're pulling someone up as someone else is pulling you up.
I like that analogy too.
As you're building a beautiful community within the industry, and I really think that's the biggest power of these events. Yeah. You can keep your finger on the pulse, but more importantly, with all that, with learning and everything, is with the community you can build. Yeah. So, Brett, I actually have a question for both of you here, based off the 33% model there. What do you do with the extra 1%? If you spend 33% of your time with all, you got 99%. What do you do with that extra 1%?
Oh my goodness. Rest.
That's a great question, right?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. You know, I guess it's maybe some mentorship, right?
Yeah.
Little mentorship. That 1% seems a little low, though.
Yeah.
I might go push back and say, hey, it's 33 1/3.
Yeah. We'll call it the rule of thirds. We can just fix that a third.
I don't know if there's a good answer. I mean, 1% is not that much. I mean, self-reflecting on a 2-mile walk every morning, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I like what you said, though. You said, some of those people, those friends and family that have been around a long time. Like, I know some friends and family, some of those old, they've seen me when I wasn't doing good things.
Yeah.
And they were there and endured me when I
Yeah.
was making bad decisions.
Yeah.
So it's like when things are going good, those are the people you want.
Yeah.
They saw you through tough times, and why would you say I don't have time for that now?
Yeah.
Because
I need to be the median of the 5 closest people.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't disagree with it, but I don't 100% agree with it. I think that the median of the 5 people can be in different categories.
Absolutely.
Right? You can have a professional life, a personal life, spiritual life, whatever, fitness life, that kind of stuff, right? There's a perfect example. You go the rule 5 in different categories. I don't hang out with anybody who's in fitness, right? And it's showing. I'm the median. My wife is crazy into fitness, but she's not 5. She's only 1.
Yeah.
I need 4 more, and then I'll be the middle. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think that's really good. The self-reflection thing is really big. I had a really, really cool experience last week. I don't know if you've heard of a guy named Colin O'Brady.
Sounds familiar.
He's the first guy to walk across Antarctica unassisted, rode the Drake Passage.
I did just watch Explorer. It's not Colin O'Brady, but some other guy that did like an unassisted Antarctica cross. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
So really, really nuts. But he advocates this thing of doing a 12-hour walk.
Wow.
So by yourself, no phone, no music,
Yeah.
no people, no talking,
Yeah.
no nothing. Just you, 12 hours outside walking.
Yeah.
And I did this last week, and it was the most profound experience
Yeah.
on so many levels. I mean, one, it's a much bigger physical challenge than I thought it was
12
going
hours
to
is
be.
a long time.
You hit about mile 15, and it got real painful because I don't walk that far normally. Like I know some people could walk that far and not even think about it.
Nobody really does.
But the pain, but really it's just what comes out of investing in yourself and saying I'm going to put away all the noise.
Yeah.
Because there's so much noise.
Yeah.
Whether it's just our phone going off or the conversations we have, even with people that are close to us that are pouring into us. But just to be alone, man, I can't tell you how much I advocate other people to do it, and like the effect that I believe it'll have going forward. So
Yeah, I have a friend who goes on a retreat. Actually, one of my partners, but he was a friend before that, and he goes on a retreat for a full weekend. No technology, no TV, just his thoughts and his plans, and he just kind of sits in silence, silent retreat.
Yeah,
Just himself. He's got like 5 kids and.
That's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
That's a lot of noise.
So there's that 1%.
Yeah.
There
you go.
Reflecting.
Yeah, you're right. That answers that.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, you think about it, like in all the things that we do, like 1%, like that's 3.5 days a year.
Yeah.
We spent 3.5 days a year.
There you go.
Being reflective, like there you go. That
Fits that number. There's your answer. It took us like 5 minutes to get it, but
We came full circle.
yeah.
So we love on this podcast to talk a lot about, obviously we talk about the business side of this industry. And we've been talking a lot about leadership and mindset and growing a company recently. But I have got some questions on, hey, what does this look like for a guy who just at this point owns a job? Mm-hmm. For a guy who, like you said when you started, it's you and maybe you got one guy out there, or maybe it's just you as the owner-operator. What do you see from your position as a board member of PWNA? I'm sure you talk to a lot of guys that are fresh into the industry. What do you see as the biggest, give me one opportunity and biggest obstacle that you're seeing now? I'm curious from your perspective.
An obstacle in an industry?
In this industry, like just starting up in power washing, what are you seeing as the obstacles and the opportunities?
So, and this is coming from a one-man band perspective, right?
From someone just starting out. Whether it's
the obstacles are obviously, organization, right? So you're doing absolutely everything. That's a huge obstacle. So, in order to overcome that, obviously, just good time management, right? But an obstacle when doing things by yourself is that you're doing them by yourself. It's very lonely. It's nerve-wracking, right? So you're supporting yourself. And then another obstacle is just there's a lot of haters out there, man. People want to hate on the cheap guy.
Yeah.
But who cares? Just because, you can afford my pressure washing business and he can't, doesn't mean he shouldn't be able to have his house pressure washed, right?
Yeah.
And there's a $99 guy out there. I just don't agree with all the haterade on the guys who are just starting out and have to get their client list going. I mean, that's called side work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I did side work, Now, sometimes people with side work just want a little extra bucks, right? And that's fine too. Sometimes people with side work eventually start their own businesses. Just because side work doesn't mean that somebody wants to go start their own business.
Well, you think about it, like like in the lawn care industry, does the kid who's mowing yards for the neighbors for $20 hurting the guy that's running a landscaping business?
No.
People don't seem to understand market share.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I probably have 1% market share. And somebody says, hey, you want to grow your business? You're trying to get in other areas? I'm like, nope. Just trying to get more market share. There's plenty of houses to paint, plenty of houses to wash.
And let's be real, the guy in that situation, you have different ideal customers, right? You're the guy with the big companies and targeting the same guy as the young kid with the lawnmower, and that's it.
And neither is the person that wants a $99 house wash the same one who wants to pay somebody $500, $600, $700 to do a more thorough job. They're not the same person. That person's never going to be like, oh, there's somebody that'll do it for next to nothing. No, they want a different service. They have a different idea. So I have a hard question for you. I don't know if you're going to want to answer.
The second hardest part, I would say the first one is wearing a lot of hats. The second hardest one is education. Right? You think you're killing it, but you don't know until you continue to educate yourself, right?
Yeah.
So just make sure, or a big roadblock is to stopping your education. So try and unload some hats and keep educating yourself.
I love it.
And I don't mean to break this, but Jake talked about like new people in the business right now. With all the things that are going on right now, with all the change, is it a good time to start a pressure washing business?
I think that you have to know your why in anything in life, right? I'm not a big book quoter, but one of the first things I remember listening to was Simon Sinek's Why, right?
Oh, one of my favorites.
It's a great thing, and I don't really quote books or speeches or things like that, but if you know your why, it's a good time to do anything. And that why will get you through the hard times, right? So if you can stay true to your why, it'll get you through the hard times. I think it's perfectly fine to start a business at any point in time. There's always an opportunity if you can sit and think and create it, right? Just because the economy is going to do whatever the economy is going to do, or there's shortages on this or that, does not mean that there's some sort of angle. Sounds like a bad word, but an angle to an opportunity.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Not an angle to be sneaky, but an angle to an opportunity, right? Every stress or every change creates new opportunity.
Well, and right now, I see one of the biggest opportunities is market share. If you have a down market and you want to start a company, maybe it's the opportunity for you to get in, skip ahead a little bit with an acquisition. Maybe you can acquire someone who's been doing it for years and is ready to step out, and this is a good price and a good market price to get into the company. Or, as well, it might be a good time to grab market share on the low end with the low price jobs. It might be a good time if there's a big influx of that because people are spending less and they're looking for less. It might be a good opportunity to grab some of that lower end market share.
Yeah. There's always an opportunity,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I mean, I didn't have an answer for you. I was just very curious how you'd respond to that. And
hopefully, is that a good answer?
it is a very good answer because I too believe it's not the what. It's got to be why. It's this driving force of who we are and what we want to accomplish, how we actually go and do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be changing. Whether you start a business today or a year from now, or you started it 2 or 3 years from now, the certainty is that there will be change. And you will have to change how you do things if you want to keep up with that.
Yeah.
Right? So like worrying about like, is it good or bad, or is this good or bad? Yeah, you're going to have to be willing to say maybe offering this service at this price doesn't work right now.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't tweak it so that it will,
Yeah.
right? So I like that. There's always opportunity.
So to follow up with that, I love that you can tweak it to make it work. Your question was, is this a good time to start a business? And that is a really tough question in this industry, and at all times, I'm sure that's a tough question. But I think one of the ways you could answer that best is if you were to start from square one again, but right now, what would you do differently?
That's always a good question, right?
Yeah.
What would I do differently? I'd start with education a lot sooner, right? I'd try and attend things, network. I'd try and do that so much sooner. Another thing I would probably do is write everything down I did. That's an answer that I've told a million people when somebody says, "Hey, what kind of advice would you give?" Write down everything, right? So if you're producing something and you can measure it and you can time it, write it down. I wish I wrote down all production rates and how we did things, ways that were successful, wrote them down so that you can hand that piece of paper off to the next person, right? The people who are typically the most successful have the most well-documented processes.
Oh, yeah. You have to know, hey, what are my numbers here? What's the data so that I can make data-driven decisions?
Yeah.
And then also you make your business sellable. You have everything written down. And if you're thinking exit strategy right away, we've done podcasts on that about building a company with an exit.
There's a lot of people do that.
Yeah, but you can't really make decisions unless you know your numbers. And that's something I've found in this industry is if you sit and ask a guy, hey, what's your profit margin on this, and that, or stuff like that, a lot of people don't really know their numbers. And you can make more powerful decisions when you know your numbers. Yeah. So is that something that you've seen and that you right from the get-go would do is just focus on recording and having all of the numbers?
Yeah, those two things would be the most important. Again, education and information, right? So I guess they go hand in hand, but it doesn't have to be just numbers. It can be a process. Hey, how did you plug this in?
Yeah.
And how did you start that? And how did you record that? And what is that? And just writing that down. And at this point in time, because back then there was no recording videos or anything like that, record the video that goes along with it.
Yeah, you're not that old.
67, man. No.
Back in my day, it was in black and white.
Yeah.
No. Well, we didn't have computer. There was no. I mean, it was barely dial-up. What computer? 90s. I mean, computers been around forever.
Yeah, but they didn't get popular till the late 90s. You didn't even have internet.
The internet, 97, 98 was dial-up or whatever. 96. So, now you can do everything. But yeah, recording it, even if it's a phone, that's tremendous. Now, after that, there's a few other things about hiring and stuff like that.
Speaking of hiring in teams, somebody came to you and they're starting a business and they say, okay, so I'm out there on the internet and I'm listening to people, right? And there's a group of people that says the only way to run a business like this is you and a helper, and you build up a truck and you learn how to make good money doing that, and that's the way to do it. Anything else on is just headaches.
Yeah.
I've heard other people say the only way to do this is to build a company, that has multiple trucks in it, that has office staff that's doing that. What's the right answer to that?
Know your why. Right? So typically the people who I've heard that from too say, I've been huge. Mm-hmm. I don't know why you want to go big. It's been a struggle. It's been a nightmare. I can be so much more profitable with a smaller company. And then there's other people who say, I can't wait to get there and grow. I can't stand doing everything. I think the people, and I'm speaking on hypothesis, right, based off of what I've noticed, is that the people who have grown to a point and then reverted are the people who didn't document things, right? Mm-hmm. They are still wearing all the hats. They're not educating themselves, but their business has grown.
And they're not training properly.
And that's been a huge, tremendous struggle. And they're the people who say it's easier or smaller. Mm-hmm. The people who want to get bigger are on the opposite side of that spectrum. I don't think there's a right answer or a wrong answer. I think that there are people who take tremendous pride in being the owner-operator and being the one who cleans that surface and can walk away and say, I did that, I showed you the detail that an owner should show.
I love that you bring that up as an Achilles heel for growth, because it's such an easy fix. You can come to an event like PWNA here and you can just ask the questions of people who've been there before.
Yeah.
How do I get there? How do I grow? And I think there's no easy answer, but if you just go through business with the mindset of scalability. I'm going to scale, so what questions do I have to ask?
Yeah.
You don't know what questions you have to ask. You just go ask them, what do I have to know to be able to scale?
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that cut. Well, I mean, dude, these people are doing these things. They're building 7-figure businesses in a year.
Wow.
Less than a year now, which is, I don't think it's the norm.
Mm-hmm.
We're just seeing it more because of social media and things like that. But these guys are growing some incredible things that even make the guys who've been around doing this for a couple decades very humble. You know, from the other side, that's pretty amazing.
What do you see that's changing that's allowing that?
I think information is more readily available. Technology in the digital technology side is more readily available. That's probably about it. You know, I think it's, again, there's nothing, we started this all, I think maybe during this conversation, right? There's nothing new, right? Sharing secrets.
Yeah.
I'm sure plenty of people have done this before and fast. You know, not this industry, but other industries.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a great little comment there, because I love looking at other industries to see how you can grow. So what have you pulled from other industries? Is there anything you've seen in another, maybe home service industry or maybe not even related at all, that you've seen some process or some sort of method they're using and taking that into your model?
So I think in the service-based industry, for the most part, professionalization of the industry, right? So if you go into a doctor's office, if you go into a chiropractor's office, if you go into a hotel or numerous other things, the professionalization is there. I mean, there's somebody there that'll greet you, you're going to get an email, you're going to get everything you need to make whatever you're doing exactly how you want it. And in a lot of the service-based industries, because of the owner-operator, again, the difficulty in wearing all the hats is difficult, right? You're up on a ladder, you're writing things down on a sticky pad, you don't want to call when you get home. Whereas if you're able to professionalize that based off of how other industries have done, and you bring your service to a whole nother level, and I'm not talking about the service of what you're actually doing, I'm talking about the service of making people happy.
Like creating an experience.
Right? And doing what you say you're going to do, and whatever it takes to create the experience. If you can pull that from other industries, that's tremendous. And I think that the service-based industries are a long way into doing that already. And again, back to the young kid, I think that they're learning how to make this service, the customer service aspect.
It's interesting, you know, that's one of the advantages. You talk about, like, new companies, you're talking about how growing really fast is sometimes these guys that start new companies and do it fast, they're not limited by all their experience that they have in this industry. And this is how it's done, and you do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
They have a fresh perspective to it, and they're like, well, I've seen this other kind of company do this, this, and this, so I'm just going to do that here. They don't know that that's not the way.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it works in a new way.
That's a great point. I think that there's a lot of people who are coming into industries who have not actually done or will ever do what that industry is. You know, and that's okay. You know, so there's no preconceived notions in your head from what you've done as a 20-year-old to now what you're trying to grow. That'll hold you back. There's no like self-limiting beliefs.
So you're kind of stumbling into innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
Well, I think it's amazing. Our experiences, they add to us, but, you know, they color the world that we see, one way or the other, good and bad, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, Christian, I do have a question. So with everything going on here, we're coming to the end of this year. I love to ask, like, what are you really excited about right now? Like, what's coming up?
So as you and I talked before, right? We formed a partnership with another company. And this year's been rough, you know. Definitely some our fault, and definitely some our fault, right? I can take ownership for the things I've done. There's probably been some bumps in the road from their perspective, on their side too, but we're getting there, you know. And I'm super excited for next year for us personally, for what we can achieve with our partners. And continue with that stuff. And as far as the education, with the industries I'm involved with, the PCA, the PWNA, they're doing some amazing things with education, with certification, with classes, and really just trying to professionalize the industry to help professionalize themselves. You know?
What, you know, and I think this is an interesting thing, because this is another hot topic, right? Like, you know, people talk about growth and not partnership is another hot topic. And there's a whole lot of different ways you can partner with somebody. Why did you partner, and what were some of the benefits that you hope to get from that?
So I partnered because, again, know your why, right? My personality type, I'm a D personality, right? I don't concentrate on the details. Through pure grit and determination, have gotten my company to where I've gotten it now. To take it to that final next step, I needed somebody within my company to help with the details, right? Because the reason why you give advice is because either A, you didn't do it and you wish you did, or you did it and it worked. So I didn't write down all that stuff. I still don't write down all that stuff. Right? It's in my head. And then I hire you to do sales, and I teach you what's in my head, and then it's in your head. Never down on a piece of paper, or on a video or an LMS or things like that. And the reason why I point here, I don't mean to do that intentionally, but we have LMSs and things like that.
For anybody to know what an LMS
Learning management system, right? So
so it's like
software system.
Yeah, so the idea of being able to go online and take classes on a platform that lays it out in courses. I'm sorry, just in case
it brings up a great point, because I just heard this recently at an event. Using acronyms can alienate people.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
It's cool, right?
Lingo is our enemy, and so
using an acronym can make people feel stupid and alienate them and turn them off.
Don't feel stupid.
Good call.
So sorry to interrupt your story.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, because I didn't know what an LMS was.
Now you know. So we're partnering with some people who have finished this path. And this path will help my employees grow further.
Yeah.
So in all coaching, in all mentorship, they tell you to get out of your way, they tell you to be uncomfortable, and this is what I hope to be one of the final steps of me getting out of my way so that the business can take off.
I love that. What is that ultimate vision that you want to see it get to?
That's hard.
Yeah.
It is extremely hard. I'd like to see...
Is it hard to vocalize or hard to see?
It's hard to... No, it's not hard to see. It's hard to put everything together, what's in my mind.
Yeah.
Because my mind races. I want to see people be able to have an opportunity within my company. I want to see people be able to have continued growth mentally, physically. And I'd like to be able to have a hand in that. So that's what I see.
Yeah.
It's really... It sounds so stupid because, he wants to grow to become whatever, millionaire, tons of money. I probably won't ever be a millionaire, but if I can live comfortably, that's fine. The reason why I say that is because, if he grows all these people, he's making tons and tons of money. No, truly, I want people around me to be successful. I coach college baseball. I've coached some semi-pro baseball. I coach little leaguers now, right? It's the same passion through all of that stuff. If I can take a kid who cannot throw a ball in the beginning of the season, from first base to home, and at least halfway through the season he can do it, he can have a catch with dad, I had a hand in that, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, fulfilling.
Awesome. So that's a tremendous passion of mine.
And you're doing that in your business, building out a team.
Yeah. So it's just cool. So I don't know if that answers that or not. But.
Well, so for you, it's kind of like it's about what you can do for the next people, the people that are in your tribe, the people that are in your circle.
Helping create successful people, but I don't even need kudos for it. I don't. I just like seeing it. That's kudos enough.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I think that it's really easy sometimes because, this information that we have is so good, right? It allows us to do so much, but it also influences us a lot.
Yeah.
And the more we're influenced, I think the more we've become materialistic as a society.
Yeah.
And we just keep putting higher and higher value on these achievements. My company sold this much, I drive this car, I have this much money. But I think we become more and more influenced by that, and we forget that that's just one part of our life. Yeah, it's great. There's nothing wrong with having rewards.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with them having some material rewards, right? I like to go on nice vacations.
Yeah.
I'm a big car enthusiast.
Yeah.
I like cool cars.
Yeah.
I like doing cool car things.
Yeah.
But we forget that there's so much more depth in life, and there's so much reward in how we serve other people.
Yeah.
the people on our team are people we can directly affect, not for our glory, but because if we want to lead a fulfilling life, we have to have more dimensions to it than just my company sold this much. Because we're going to get there, especially if we're good at what we do, right? If we're good entrepreneurs and we push into it, we're going to get there and we're going to realize, wait a second, that's not all I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So I love that your why has more depth to it. That was a lot to say.
No, it's
more
good.
Depth to it than just, I want to have a $50 million company, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. You should. If that's...
Just burn on the economy, right?
Yeah, hit it. But remember that there's so many other pieces along the way. Like, how are you as a father? How are you as a husband? What are you doing for your community? How are you serving others?
Yeah.
Are you growing in your character? And I feel a huge passion for this, right now too. So
It's awesome.
And this guy, this guy.
He's there, man. He's ready to go swimming.
Yes, he is. He knows what's important.
Usually mine come, I do not like traveling for work. I didn't get into painting and power washing to travel, which is kind of amazing, but I do miss my family when I'm away. They usually come, though. I love running out.
Yeah. It's cool. What a blessing it is to spend time with your kids, with your wife. Because, hey, you got to wait just 1 second, okay? You got to wait just 1 second. So many people spend all their time away from their family instead of with their family.
Yeah.
Wrap us up.
All right. Well, Christian, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
No, man, I appreciate you having me.
So I hadn't known you very well. I feel like I know you a lot better after this. This was a great conversation. I cannot wait for continued conversations to follow.
We'll definitely do it.
All right.
You said wrap it up. Let's go. I'm ready to go swimming.
Yes. Thank you very much, Christian.
Some of those kids tomorrow.
All right. So this will not be the end of this conversation. We will definitely have to continue. And we'll have you back on. So thank you very much, Christian. Thank you, Brad, for joining me today.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Ollie, for being moral support over here. And as always,
Bringing
thank you.
us down to earth.
Yeah. Thank you to the audience for tuning in, checking this out. If you're listening to this, you're on the right track. You're looking for the right information. And let us know what you want to hear, who you want to hear from. Like, subscribe, and share. And please, sharing is the most important. Please, if you know anyone who could benefit from one of these podcasts, please send this to them. And thank you very much. See you next time.
Sounds good.